Welcome to my lecture on Python. This is the first lecture of this series. So let's see what is Python. In this lecture, I'm going to talk about what is Python and why Python is useful, and then we'll be talking about variables, which is the very basic and very first step of learning any programming language. Okay, now let's see what is Python. Before even saying what is Python, why should you choose Python? Why should you learn Python first of all? First, why Python is because it's easy to learn. If you want to learn any language, I think Python is the most easiest of all. So that's why a lot of people learn Python because it's very its syntax is very easy and very understandable. So it's easy to write. If you learn Python, see, when it compared to in a bit, I'll show you an example. When compared to some other languages, a lot of languages, Python is the most easiest language to write, and it's easy to understand. If you're coming from any programming background like from C, Java, or any other programming language, if you write Python code without any Python, if you read Python code without any Python knowledge, you can understand what that code exactly is doing. So that's how easy is Python. That's why most of people choose Python as their first language. But is this enough? Easy to understand, easy to read, easy to write, is that enough? I don't think it is enough. Before learning any programming language, you look what it can do. So let's see what Python can do. So first of all, recently machine learning, artificial intelligence are coming up a lot, and the primary language they choose to do this machine learning and artificial intelligence stuff is Python. So if you want to pursue your career in machine learning, data science, or artificial intelligence, I think Python is the best language, and industry is looking for Python guys for these projects of machine learning, data science, and all these things. Now the second word is of course data science, and then you can even do web development with Python. In a bit, I'll show you an example. I've developed my own website, a small website, to give you an example about variable, which I'll show you in a bit. But you can do backend web development using Python, and you can do game development. Even this web development can be done using something called Django, which is a module in Python. And what are modules we are going to see in future lectures. And similarly, similar to Django, we have something called Pygame, using which you can develop some games using Python. So not just development, machine learning, and data science, you can even use this Python for testing. If you are a manual tester, if you want to upgrade yourself to automation, Python is the best language, because Selenium, a lot of tools are coming with Python inbuilt in them. And now Python is as Python is the most easiest language. This is the first thing you can learn before going into the automation field. So not just development, you can do pretty much everything using Python. Now we've seen what Python can do. Now let's see what is a Python actually. Python started off as a scripting language. Now it's doing everything like web development, game development, as we have seen now. It is doing a lot of things. But Python is also so Python is actually a programming language which can do this web development and all. And there's one more thing you have to remember about Python is basically an interpreted language. What do I mean by interpreted language is, let's say you have written a 4 or 5 lines of code in Python. So basically interpreter is something which converts your high level Python code or any other code into machine code, which is zeros and ones. We have two softwares to do this. One is compiler and another is interpreter. C, Java, these programs use compilers, but Python uses interpreter. So what is interpreter is, let's say you have written these 4 lines of code in Python. Now, instead of taking all these 4 lines, as soon as you run this program, the interpreter will take first line and then it will be converted into a binary code and then will be given to the computer to execute it, which means it will not take the entire code. So it will take the first line, it will change it into binary, it will be given to the computer. The computer will run what this particular code is doing, and then the second line will be taken by the interpreter and will be converted into binary code and will be given to the computer, so that the computer will run that, and then it will take the third line and fourth line. Unlike compiler, which takes this entire high level code, it will be converted into something, this binary code using compiler first, and then this binary code completely will be given to the computer or CPU to execute. But in Python, it will be done using interpreter, which means it will be done line by line. Why is it so important is, in future videos, when you are debugging the code, when you are writing some functions, which you will see in future videos, future lectures, All those things, when you're doing all those things, when you're doing debugging, the word that Python is an interpreted language, this will help you a lot in debugging the code. So just understand that Python is an interpreter language. As soon as you run the Python code, it will be run line by line. Okay.